Cecil, I hope you're having a great day. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
Hi, Ryan. How are you today?
Very good. Very good. A lot of anxiety over this situation. I hope you can help us sort of clear some of these things up and maybe either increase it or reduce it a little bit.
We'll see. Probably neither, but we'll see what happens.
Cecil, let me just get your take. Let's go back to Tuesday when we began learning about this scandal that was hitting the world of sports. What were your thoughts then?
Well, I went to Huntsville to talk to Avery Johnson about it, and to be fair, Avery had been traveling that day, and so wasn't, I don't think, 100% up to speed on everything that had transpired. He knew the basic elements, but he wanted to get back to Tuscaloosa to sit down with his coaches, to sit down with his athletic director, and just do the due diligence. So, he wasn't saying everything's great. He wasn't saying anything's terrible. He just wanted to do what good athletic programs do, which is self-examine, self-investigate, make sure that they had done all their compliance work. And in the course of doing that, it became obvious with the release of the bill of particulars from the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York that there was some potential involvement. They wanted to find the details out about that. They talked to Kobie Baker. Kobie filled them in that yes, indeed, he was involved. Greg Byrne takes over at that point, obviously, and made the call to accept Kobie's resignation and move forward from there and continue to investigate. You don't wrap things up in one day and say everything's fine. You try and get the most complete information that you can.
How much credit does Greg Byrne need, and obviously Avery Johnson, for being proactive in this approach?
They do deserve credit. I mean, that's what they should do. That's doing their job. But they certainly didn't sweep anything under the rug, didn't flinch when they found out what the possibilities were, and went to the source and looked into every ramification of that and made this decision. And I'm sure hated to see it. Kobie's from the Tuscaloosa area. Kobie's had a upwardly mobile career where he had worked at the NCAA. He'd worked at Alabama before. He'd worked at the NCAA. He'd been an assistant coach, had become an associate athletic director, had a future in administration. And so everybody on a personal level, I'm sure, hated to see it. Would have told you that Kobie was a great guy, and so there was probably some disappointment mixed in with all the other emotions that go along. But the main thing is the risk to the student athlete as far as eligibility is concerned, and the risk of the institution. Those are the things that you have to act upon.
It's going to sound like an amateur opinion. It probably is. We've seen coaches that are being charged with some of the allegations out here, alleged being charged with some of these allegations. What makes Kobie Baker's story different?
First, I'm not the FBI or the U.S. Attorney, so I'm really
sure
hesitant.
But your expertise, you've been covering this forever.
To put that hat on, it does not look like Kobie was one of the targets of the investigation. Also, in the document, in the description of events, while the FBI's cooperating witness indicated that Kobie took money, there isn't a definitive statement that he passed that money along to a parent or to a prospect. So that probably is the difference that I see. But again, pointing out that difference and saying, oh, that's definitely it, and that means B, I'm not at that point of expertise with the FBI. I think had they had direct evidence that the parent, and it's Colin Sexton's parent, it's obvious from the document, had received that money from Kobie, perhaps it would have been different.
Cecil, at this point, do you see it affecting Colin Sexton's eligibility?
Don't know, because I don't know all the details. His family on social media has been pretty adamant that nothing happened. I think the coaching staff is confident in that, but we have a meeting that was videotaped, audio taped. Again, the FBI did not make any charges against Kobie off that meeting, but they've got the facts of what happened there, and you want to investigate further. So I won't say that it's impossible. I will say that Alabama certainly supports their player and his family, and his family has publicly been pretty adamant that their parents wouldn't do that. So that's where it stands right now. I think they'll stick by the player, but you still have to be cautious from a compliance standpoint. We've got over a month before they play, and that'll give a lot more time to get more detail and make a report to the NCAA, get a ruling, and go forward from there. So it's something that you have to continue to look at, but it'll be taken care of one way or the other.
But in your opinion, do you think this will lead to some type of NCAA investigation?
Well, the NCAA is going to come in on all of it, on several schools. That part of it has not stopped, but the way the process works is you gather the best information. You say, we immediately caused accepted the resignation of the employee. Not a similar situation to what happened with Bo Davis in the football program, but at the same time, a similar act of compliance where the NCAA looks at all the details, says that the employee who violated the rules is out, and no competitive advantage was gained from that, and they accept that and move on. That's what happened in the football case. Whether that'll be the case in basketball, again, let me stress there's investigation still to be done. Then you file the report, and they either accept that or they come in and say, no, we want to investigate further on our own. I don't know that that's what they'll do, but it's certainly a possibility.
So let's remove Alabama, or let's put them to the side a little bit. Judge this from your perspective throughout this entire case. We've heard people that have covered the sport. We've had a basketball analyst on earlier this week from a national level, and he said this could end up being one of the worst scandals in sports, collegiate sports. Do you think that's fair to say that? Where do you see it from your perspective?
No, I think it's already. I don't know how you rate scandals, and I certainly think when you start talking about, for instance, the situation at Baylor, that you're really into apples and oranges. Which scandal's worse, what kind of things are worse. This is plenty bad enough, and has cost one Hall of Fame coach's job already, and has cost Alabama an administrator, and will cost other people their jobs. Right now, what you have with the FBI is you have subjects who've been arrested who are yet to be interviewed, who are yet to tell what they know if that's what they choose to do. So it could lead, much further for many institutions. So is it going to be the worst? We go back to the point shaving scandal of the 50s, or individual schools. As far as being widespread, it's already one of the worst. So what the future will be, I don't know. Let's see. Let's let the investigation continue to progress. Let's see what other schools who've been implicated do. Let's see if there are further schools yet to be implicated. I think in some ways people think if it can help with nothing is going to completely do away with agents and agent runners and hangers on and people who smell money and want to try and get a piece of that money for themselves. That's never going away. It's been around since the New Testament, at least, Ryan, and will be around another 1,000 years. But there are ways to help police that. There are ways to help control that. As far as the shoe companies, which is the other aspect of this, I think a healthy scrutiny of how they fund youth programs, of where the money goes, and a more transparent accounting process is important. And I think that we will get that result out of this situation.
Cecil, I hope this doesn't sound unfair, but when you go to the FBI building, I talked about the size of the building, the amount of staff that's in that building. You go to Indiana, it's not quite that big at the headquarters of the NCAA. But does this speak volumes about the NCAA that they've almost ignored this for many, many years, and the FBI had to sort of crack down?
Well, yeah, it's a complicated issue, but does the NCAA have enough enforcement staff to police everything that occurs in college football, college basketball, softball, golf, tennis? No, they don't. They don't. Are these high-profile cases? Yes. Is it important to the NCAA to have a strong men's basketball profile when most of its revenue is generated from its men's basketball tournament? Probably so. So I'm not quick to condemn, other than to say they have never had the enforcement resources to police every violation. That's why there's a cooperative model with the schools, and it's why people sometimes accuse the NCAA of selective prosecution. But the system can't work, unless the schools cooperate. And there are certainly aspects of this that the schools should want to get rid of, whether that's eliminating any chance for players to get an additional part of the monies that are generated. All of a sudden, people are talking about this is $1 billion industry, and what's terrible is these players are getting something. Well, you may not like the mechanism, but frankly, I think they deserve something. Let's just police it. Let's just do it the right way. Let's just have it structured through the institutions rather than a shadow economy, a dark economy that the institutions aren't in control of.
Cecil Hurts right now, Tuscaloosa News, Tidesports.com. Marquise Munson behind the glass. I think Marquise has got a quick question. Marquise, go ahead with Cecil.
Hey, Cecil, you mentioned Coach Rick Pitino and what happened with him, of him getting fired from his job. And a lot of these accusations, even though they don't fall under the head coach, it's usually an assistant coach and it's usually an administrator. How does that still going to affect the head coaches like a Bruce Pearl and like an Avery Johnson?
Well, there's an assumption at the NCAA level that the head coach is responsible for assistant coach violations, that you have to monitor your programs, you have to make a proactive effort to have a strong compliance program. So it certainly has an effect. Now, the coaches in those cases, whether it's Bruce Pearl, whether it's Avery Johnson, whether it's Frank Martin, whether it's Sean Miller at Arizona, whoever it is, they're going to have the opportunity to state their side of the case. Rick Pitino, I think, who was mentioned in the report, who also had a program that just finished an infractions committee hearing in June and is involved in this in July, I think is a unique case. But to address your question, there's an assumption of responsibility for all of it.
Cecil, final question. I think it'd be probably wrong to even get you on and ask you at least one football question. Your thoughts on the Crimson Tide as they go into Ole Miss or stay here against Ole Miss?
It won't be, it's a different team than Vanderbilt. And people who look at that Vanderbilt game and it's a rare weekend, no matter how good your team is, it's a rare weekend when everything comes together, when everybody's the player of the week. When the offense plays well, the defense plays well, special teams play well, and you just overwhelm an opponent. Alabama has the capability to do that, but nobody does that every week. Ole Miss is a different opponent than Vanderbilt. They have a quarterback who can make plays. They have receivers who can make dynamic plays. So they probably have a confidence level that for all the pregame hubbub around Nashville is a different confidence level than Vanderbilt has because Ole Miss has done it. Has players who have been on a team that's beaten Alabama before. They know what it takes. At least their upperclassmen have been in that situation. So Ole Miss has some issues. I watched them against Cal. They can be one-dimensional. I don't think their running game helps Shea Patterson as much as they would like. I think they have depth issues on both sides of the ball, whether that's tied to their recruiting or not. I think that they have good starting players, but I think that the depth can be an issue for them. So I would pick Alabama, although I frankly think the number's a little high, but I don't think it'll be a game like Vanderbilt.